she dropped the apples. 3 hit the sidewalk, 1 rolled into the gutter, and the last wobbled in place near his boot. He stooped, scooped it up, and held it out with a smile he didn't expect to mean. She was wearing sunglasses too big for her face, a coat too thin for the October wind, and a pair of boots that had seen enough New England winters to justify retirement. But none of that caught his attention first. What did, oddly enough, was the way she looked at the runaway apple, as if watching a part of herself tumble away. "Here," he said, his voice half lost in the gust between them. "Still good. No bruises." She took it slowly, hesitantly, her hand brushing his with a tremble that felt unintentional. "Or maybe not." She muttered a thank you, already turning to gather the others, but he stayed kneeling, curious now, interested in a way that had nothing to do with attraction and everything to do with a strange kind of gravity she seemed to carry, like a monument no one visited anymore. "You all right?" he asked, too casually. "Bit of a day?" Her laugh came like gravel, unpracticed and dry. "You could say that. Apples weren't supposed to be the worst part." The breeze tugged at her coat and her hair, flecked with just enough gray to suggest wisdom if not surrender. She looked older than she probably was. Or maybe just tired in a way that had settled into her bones. He liked that. Liked the imperfection of it. The lived-in-ness. She wasn't shiny. She wasn't smoothed out by youth or hunger. She just was. He stood slowly, all 6 feet of 22-year-old athletic nonchalance, dressed in a Columbia hoodie and jeans with the knees fading. He wasn't posing, not yet. Not on purpose. He was just present. "I'm Leo," he said. "I was heading to get a coffee, but I can be late for that." She studied him then. Not flirtatiously. Not even warily. More like someone trying to figure out if the stranger who'd handed her an apple might also be the type to steal her wallet. After a long pause, she tucked the apples into a paper bag, now crumpled and torn. "You're not one of my students, are you?" Leo blinked. "Should I be?" "I teach literature at the university." "You look vaguely familiar." He smiled, liking that she didn't say young. "I audit lectures sometimes. For fun. Emerson's class on tragedy." "Yours?" "Film. Screenwriting. Scene construction, mostly. Which is ironic because I'm a terrible judge of my own." She said it flatly, no smile. Leo tilted his head. "I don't know. That apple thing? Good cold open. That got her. Just slightly. The faintest pull of her lips upward, not a full smile, but something like a reluctant truce with the world. And in that moment, she looked nothing like a professor, or a tired woman with mismatched gloves. She looked like someone beautiful for the first time in a long time, and it had nothing to do with appearance. "Okay," she said, finally. "Coffee. But not here. I don't do campus cafes. Too many whispers. Too many students," he teased. "Too many ghosts." They walked 2 blocks in silence, the kind that invites confession, not conversation. She introduced herself at the corner, voice casual, but eyes watching. "I'm Claire." He nodded. "Claire." He tried the name out loud, once, like a song lyric you didn't want to forget. She didn't flinch. At the cafe off Ashburn Street, she ordered tea. He got the strongest espresso they had. They sat in a booth in the back, away from the windows, surrounded by tired novels on the shelf and the slow drip of background jazz. "You always pick up women by rescuing their groceries?" He chuckled. "Only if they look like they'd rather be anywhere else." That was it. That's when she smiled, not a polite one, not a guarded one. A real smile. It cracked through her like sunlight on broken stone. Leo watched it bloom and wondered what had buried it so long. Claire sipped her tea and looked away, toward the bookshelves. "You seem too young to be so sure of yourself." "I'm not sure," he said, still watching her. "I'm just not afraid to be wrong." The silence that followed felt electric. Not romantic. Not yet. Just human, and rare. Something had shifted. Neither of them knew exactly what. But it wasn't going back. He didn't mean to see her again so soon, but some meetings refused to be accidents. The following Friday, he passed the university lot around dusk and spotted her. Claire. Same coat. Same uneven gait. This time, no apples, just a tote bag with freight straps and a slow, careful walk that said her day had not been kind. He didn't call out. Not immediately. He just followed at a half distance until they reached the parking structure's lower level where her car, a dented silver Volvo with an expired faculty sticker, waited, sulking beneath the flickering overheads. When she turned and saw him, her first instinct wasn't joy. It was calculation. Leo. Claire. Her voice thinned. Are you following me? He shrugged, unbothered. I was heading home. Same path. Coincidence, if you believe in those. She fumbled with her keys. I don't. He leaned against the pillar and crossed his arms. You could just say you're glad to see me. Claire sighed, more from exhaustion than protest. This is not a thing, Leo. I didn't say it was. She looked at him then, her expression unreadable. You don't understand what it's like here. One wrong conversation, one misplaced rumor, and suddenly I'm the next story for bored undergrads and bored faculty wives. You might just be a curiosity to them. I'm a scandal waiting to happen. You care what they think? I have to, she said. You don't. That's the difference. They stood in it, this truth between them, like a fog neither could quite navigate. She didn't ask him to leave. He didn't press her. But that night, when her car wouldn't start, he drove her home. Her neighborhood was the kind you weren't supposed to notice: tidy shrubs, brick facades, quiet tension in the symmetry. He parked 2 blocks away to avoid prying eyes. She lived in a house that felt curated, not lived in. Every corner neat. Every picture frame aligned. He stepped inside and felt like an uninvited thought. Too loud. Too new. The photo on the mantel showed her with a man, about her age. Their smiles were too big. He didn't ask. She didn't offer. Instead, she made him tea again. Sat at the edge of the sofa like she was afraid to sink into it. He noticed her hands, always busy. Adjusting sleeves. Smoothing out air. You used to be married. She looked up, sharply. That's not a question. I'm not sorry. Claire stared at him. Then slowly, her expression changed, not into something softer, but something worn. She looked tired of carrying certain truths alone. He was a professor here too. Theology. Everyone loved him. Except me. Not that I didn't try. We both did. Or said we did. She paused. Eventually he stopped coming home, and I stopped asking why. We made civility an art form. Until it collapsed. Leo nodded. And now? He teaches in Vermont. Married again. Younger this time. Her students call her brilliant. She smiled bitterly. Apparently I was just sharp. Leo didn't flinch. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, watching her not like a man watching a woman, but like someone listening for the cracks beneath her voice. You're still sharp. That's what cut through the noise the first time I heard you speak. It wasn't the lecture. It was how you didn't pretend to be someone else. She laughed bitterly. That's only because I stopped knowing how. Silence returned, thick and unkind. But something else rose beneath it. A question. A dare. They didn't answer it, not that night. But when she walked into the door, she didn't look away when his hand brushed hers. And he didn't apologize for staying too long. The rumors came a week later. Soft at first. Hints. Whispers. A girl in his intro to American Lit class asked, casually, "Hey, are you, seeing anyone on campus?" Some say they saw you downtown with, she didn't finish the name. Just smirked like she was in on something nobody should be. Claire got the letter 2 days after that. Slid under her door with no return address, typed in bold, all caps font. Faculty-student relationships are still subject to review. That night, Leo found her sitting on her porch steps, knees pulled to her chest, her mug cold and untouched. The letter was in her hand. No envelope. No attempt at kindness. "I thought we were being careful," she whispered. "We were. Then how did this happen?" Someone saw something they wanted to twist. She looked at him, anger flaring now. "You don't get it. I could lose everything. This isn't a college hookup I can outgrow. This is my career. My reputation. My name. I'm not a kid," he snapped, sharper than he meant to. "I'm not your student. I'm not your mistake." Claire froze. Neither of them moved for a full minute. Then, softly, she said, "But you might be my consequence." He didn't answer. Didn't know how. It was a blocked number. He answered out of habit. A man's voice came through the static. Cold. Calculated. "I know what you're doing. Stay away from her, or I'll make sure neither of you walks out clean." Click. No name. But Leo recognized the tone. It was the kind of voice that had been obeyed too many times. He stared into the dark, the silence in his ear louder than anything he'd ever heard. They began speaking in the hours no one else kept, between midnight and 3, when the world felt slightly suspended, quieter than usual, like even reality had decided to sleep. Claire never invited him over at dusk anymore. It was always after the sky turned black, after porch lights flickered off one by one in her prim neighborhood. She kept the curtains drawn and her voice low, as though afraid even the furniture might overhear. Yet those hours became the most alive either of them had felt in years. Leo started to bring books. Not textbooks, but old paperbacks with cracked spines and handwritten notes in the margins. One night it was Baldwin. The next, Didion. Once, Bukowski, which she mockingly threatened to throw into the fireplace. They'd read aloud to each other, not for performance, but because it filled the silences neither wanted to leave empty. "You know," she murmured one night, her knees tucked under her on the couch, "I think I forgot how to talk to someone who doesn't want something from me." Leo raised an eyebrow, sprawled across the carpet, chewing a pen cap. "I want something from you." She turned sharply, but he added before she could speak, "I want you to be real. That's all. I want you when you're not trying so hard to be untouchable." Claire exhaled a shaky breath. "You have no idea how much effort that takes." "I do," he said simply. "I just think maybe it's time you let someone touch you anyway." Their eyes met. Not with heat, not yet, but with something slow building. Trust. 8. The kind of emotional current that doesn't explode, it burns quietly until it consumes. That night, she rested her head on his chest as they lay on the couch in a tangle of limbs in silence, and for the first time, he didn't feel young. He felt anchored. And she didn't feel old. She felt allowed. And yet, tension crept through the cracks like wind through a drafty window. Because they knew every minute they gave to each other was a secret waiting to be weaponized. Leo noticed it most in public. The way she avoided eye contact on campus now, slipping into offices like shadows, keeping conversations strictly academic. He started to feel her fear in the way she never called him Leo outside her house. Once, he ran into her at a downtown bookstore, and she nodded at him like he was just another local, a ghost of her past or a student she didn't remember. He understood. But it still stung. And then came the witness. It was late, close to 2 a.m., when they left her house on foot, walking toward the hill where the lights of the town sprawled below like spilled stars. Claire needed air. Leo needed to feel like they weren't hiding from the whole goddamn world. So they walked, close enough that their fingers brushed but never fully intertwined. At the top of the hill, they kissed. Not hungrily, not hurriedly. Just once. Soft. Like punctuation at the end of a long sentence neither wanted to end. A flash. Distant. Not lightning. A camera phone. They both froze. On the path below, someone stood still in the dark. No face. Just a silhouette in a hoodie, then gone. Claire's voice was like cracked porcelain. Did they just? Yeah. And then there was nothing but the wind. No shout. No confrontation. Just the knowing. They were seen. No one spoke on the walk back. At her door, she touched her lips like she was trying to wipe the kiss away. Not from regret, but from panic. Leo leaned against the frame, trying to find levity and failing. We're probably a meme now. But Claire didn't laugh. This isn't a joke, Leo. He nodded. I know. She hesitated, then opened the door, but didn't invite him in. Her voice was soft, almost inaudible. I need to think. I get it. But he didn't move. Claire. If someone goes public with this, what happens to you? She didn't answer. Tell me. She looked at him, really looked. And what he saw wasn't fear anymore. It was something older. Wearier. Resigned. I survive, she whispered. I always do. She shut the door. He stood there for a long time, the night colder than he remembered. The next morning, the university gossip board, a private forum meant for student discourse, exploded with a single post. Professor Claire W. seen locking lips with a certain 20-something near Hawthorne Ridge at 2 a.m. Who's the mystery cougar crushing on kids? There was no photo. But there were enough clues. Too many. Within an hour, 3 different students had tagged Leo's name in the comments. Claire didn't come in to teach that day. Leo got called into the department advisor's office for a quick chat. No one said the word affair. No one had to. It was a wedding. Not theirs, of course. Claire didn't even like weddings. She had once called them theater for people who can't handle real dialogue. But this one she couldn't avoid. A fellow professor from her department, an affable, tenured darling with just enough power to be dangerous, was marrying his much younger partner in a wine-soaked autumn ceremony packed with faculty, donors, and people who couldn't wait to wear their best masks. Leo wasn't invited. He wasn't supposed to be there. But she asked him to come anyway. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't reckless. It was calculated in the quietest way. She would walk in alone, but he would be nearby, at the edge of the crowd, in the second-tier seats. Not next to her. But close enough that she could breathe. He wore a suit. Not a great one. One of those rental cuts that looks fine until someone notices the sleeve length. He kept to himself, nodding politely, trying to blend in with a group of people who would never see him as anything but an interloper if they noticed him at all. Claire looked stunning. Not polished like in her lectures, not clean like the woman who passed him a mug of tea at midnight. This was a different version, elegant, deliberate, beautiful in a way that made her look like she belonged in any room she entered. And yet Leo saw the cracks. The stiffness in her shoulders. The way her eyes kept scanning the crowd like a soldier checking for traps. They didn't speak during the ceremony. They didn't need to. But at the reception, someone spoke for them. It started as a toast. The groom's brother won too many glasses of champagne and grabbed the mic with the slurred enthusiasm of a man who's forgotten which secrets are still secrets. Look at this crowd, he laughed. Tenure track and heartbreak. Even Claire showed up, clutched those pearls, people. Laughter. Surprised she brought a date. Or did she? I mean, where is he? Somewhere in the back, huh? That guy who looks like he got lost on his way to prom? More laughter. This time sharper. Snickering. Heads turned. Leo didn't move. Claire didn't either. But then the man leaned forward into the mic, eyes gleaming with the viciousness only passive-aggressive men in tuxedos can summon. Guess it's true what they say, those who can't write, seduce their students. The silence hit like a dropped plate. The mic cut out. But the damage had landed. Claire stood still. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She just stood. Then she walked slowly, purposefully, toward the front of the room. Not to leave. To speak. She found the host mic, cleared her throat, and waited until the murmurs died. Her voice was clear. Calm. Cold steel beneath silk. For the record, I haven't seduced anyone in a decade. If I had, he wouldn't have fit into your lazy clichés. She glanced toward the drunk brother. But thank you. It's always useful to know whose ego is tied to other people's silence. The room was dead quiet. She turned to the crowd. Let me be clear, yes, I've been seeing someone younger than me. He's not my student. He's not my affair. He's not my mistake. He's just real. In a world where most of you are performative as hell, he's the only person who's made me feel something unfiltered in years. A beat. Then, finally, she looked at Leo. Not furtively. Not apologetically. Just looked. And said, "Come here." It wasn't a command. It wasn't a test. It was an invitation. He moved. Walked through a gauntlet of stunned guests, past half-eaten cake and expensive wine and shattered assumptions. His hand found hers without hesitation. Together, they stood. Not for drama. Not for attention. But because hiding had finally become the bigger lie. She didn't kiss him. She didn't need to. The room did what rooms like that do, it split. Some people looked away. Some whispered. A few stared with wide, scandalized eyes. But no one said anything. No one stepped in to scold or save. Just a room of adults pretending they hadn't already chosen a side before she even opened her mouth. They left quietly. No applause. No confrontation. Just the sound of shoes on marble and the pounding in their chests. Outside, in the parking lot under a bruised dusk sky, Claire exhaled like she'd been underwater for years. I should have done that a long time ago. Leo squeezed her hand. Wouldn't have mattered then. You weren't ready. She turned to him. And now? He didn't answer with words. He kissed her. Not to claim. Not to prove. Just to tell her, I'm here. The fallout came the next day. An email from the university's ethics board. An invitation, not a demand, to a review conversation. Her job wasn't gone. Not yet. But the line had been drawn. Leo's department chair asked him to consider taking a leave next semester. To avoid distraction. He said it with a smile that wasn't really a smile. Friends stopped calling. Students stared longer. Her mailbox filled with letters again, some supportive, most anonymous, bitter, cowardly. But none of it felt as terrifying as the night before. Because now, it was real. They moved differently now. Not with shame, not with pride either. With clarity. Like two people who'd stopped looking for safe places and started making them instead. Claire no longer walked campus with her head down. She wore black and silver now, subtle armor. Leo didn't avoid hallways or change his coffee shop. He still got the stares, the whispers, but now they seemed like weather, unavoidable, annoying, and ultimately powerless. But the weight still pressed down. He felt it in the quiet gaps between their conversations. She felt it in her inbox, her faculty reviews, the way her department chair never looked her in the eye. What was once thrilling, dangerous, secret had become exposed, vulnerable. They'd left the shadows, and now the light was making everything raw. The ethics committee ruled after 4 weeks of deliberation. She kept her job. But the condition was clear: no further conduct that could compromise the perception of neutrality or mentorship within the department. It wasn't phrased as a threat. But it was one. And then came the call from her sister. It was a Sunday. Rain outside. Quiet in her living room. Claire's phone buzzed with a name she hadn't seen in 6 months. She answered out of instinct. The voice on the other end didn't waste time. I'm only going to ask once. Is it true? Claire didn't bother pretending not to know what she meant. Yes, she said. Silence. You're almost twice his age. I'm 44. He's 22. That's not a crime. It's something worse than that. What's worse than a crime? Something people won't forget. Click. She didn't cry. But when Leo came over an hour later, she didn't open the door for a full 2 minutes. When she did, she looked like she'd aged 5 years in one day. She didn't say hello. Just stood there in the doorway, soaked in silence. Leo stepped forward. What happened? My sister. The last one still talking to me. Still? She nodded. Not anymore. He reached for her. She let him. They sat on the couch. No books. No tea. Just each other and the sound of rain against the window. She finally spoke, voice low. I've always been good at surviving. But I never asked if I wanted to. Leo rested his forehead against hers. Then stop surviving. What does that even look like? Maybe it means letting go of something. Even if it hurts. She pulled away, barely. Looked him in the eyes. Are you saying we should end this? I'm saying, maybe we don't need to prove anything anymore. Maybe we got what we came for. She blinked. And what was that? Waking up, he said. Being alive again. That was the whole point, wasn't it? Claire said nothing. But her hand tightened around his. He kissed her cheek, quiet, final. Then he stood. And walked to the door. She didn't stop him. She didn't watch him go. Months passed. Winter came with its cruel, cleansing cold. Claire went back to teaching. She cut her hair. Started wearing brighter colors. Some students noticed. Some didn't. Leo took a job out of town. A startup in Providence. He sent her a postcard the day he moved. One sentence, nothing more. You were the first person who ever looked at me without trying to own me. She kept the card inside a copy of Giovanni's room. She never replied. Claire walked through the bookstore out of habit now. It wasn't her usual one, it was smaller, off the main strip, the kind of place where the shelves leaned and the clerk didn't make eye contact. She turned a corner and stopped. There it was. A book on the table. Newly released. Crisp dust jacket. The title, The Unscheduled Hour. By Leo Hart. She picked it up. Read the back. No photo. Just a blob. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is be seen. And sometimes it's the only way to be free. She didn't buy it. She didn't need to. She just stood there, holding it, smiling softly, smaller than a memory, bigger than regret. And then she put it down. Walked out. Back into the wind, the sun, the world.